Bismillah, as-salatu was-salaamu ala rasulillah. As-salaamu alaikum, guys.
As-salaamu alaikum.
So it is Noor here, and
Maqsood.
we are continuing with our iOS development basics course. Last lesson is, you remember we've covered how to create some basic interface, UI interface inside Xcode, and this is what we built last time. So we have our habits screen, we have the phrase As-salaamu alaikum here, and when we press plus, we are transitioned to the next screen. And our end goal is the app that you can see on the right side of the screen. So we want to have a list of habits using a UI element called TableView.
To understand TableView, we need to get familiar with a concept called delegation pattern. It's like very common pattern in software development. And we will model our data and see how we can use this data to fill our table. Okay, let's start.
Great, let's jump into it. So this is where we stopped last time. What we will do now, we actually will take the label and delete it since we are replacing it with a table view. We will press plus, and let's type table here, and the element that we want to choose is table view. So we drag it to the screen and position it like this. So as you can see, now we have it on our screen, but we also want to fill up the whole space, the whole available space with it, since that's the main element, UI element that we have. To do that, we will add constraints, which is part of the auto layout. Like last time, we've specified we centered the label horizontally and vertically. So this time, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the table view and tell it that, okay, take up the whole available space. So to do that, we will press Add New Constraint button here, and we will specify that, okay, we want it to go all the way up, all the way to the right, all the way down, and all the way to the left, and leave no space. That's why we put zeros here. So we press Add for constraints, and here we've got table view taking up the whole space. Let's actually run our app and see what's happening. So as you can see, we have the table view now here, as you can see from the lines here. Also, something probably that we should do is we should add a prototype cell here, because cells is what allows us to display the content, and so we will use the cells to fill them up with content, and each cell is like an element in the list. So that's what we've done. What is the next step for us?
So next step is to really fill our table with some content. For doing so, we need to understand some basic concept, which stands for delegate pattern. Delegate pattern is a quite common pattern in software design, in iOS specifically. So what it says is that one object requires some data from another. So the second object provides the information that is needed for first one to proceed. In our case, it's TableView who needs some data. What data does it need? It's like it can be number of rows, which data should be filled, and what happens when user really selects a row. In our case, TableView has two types of sources of information, which is called TableView data source and TableView delegate. So TableView data source provides how many elements or rows are presented in TableView and what data are really displayed at each row. And the second TableView tells what happens when user specifically selects a row. In our case, both of these roles will be played by one view controller. Let's try. So what we need to do is, first we're taking our table view, selecting it, and dragging it right to view controller. So you can see the blue line we release, and we see that table view can be connected as data source and delegate for the view controller. We choose data source, and we do the same for connecting the delegate.
Make sure you press Control So when you select the table view, you press Control and then drag it. I think you cannot see us pressing the keys, but this is what we do.
Yeah, that's correct.
So now that we've assigned our view controller as the delegate and data source for the table view, we can go into code. So to go into code, press view controller class here, and this is the code representation of the same view controller we have in the storyboard. So this controller, the code for it is here. So what we will do, since we've assigned it as the delegate and the data source, we can also assign it the roles here. So UI table view data source. That's what we will do. And for the data source, since it is a protocol, it expects that we will realize several methods, several functions within the view controller to tell the table view what data to display and in what quantity. So first thing we will do is we will do a function called number of rows in section. So select this function, double click on it, and the rest will be filled for you. So for now, since this function expects that we will return an integer, let's return value 5 for now. So our table view will have 5 rows. This is one method that we need to realize, we need to implement. And another method that we need to implement is called cell for row at index path. So again, if you double click on the method there called cell for row at index path, it will fill up the code for you. And what you do here we need to actually, since we are creating UI table view cell, it expects that, actually that's what we'll do. Let's cell equal to UI table view cell. So we will declare a cell and return it. So that's the basic structure. What we also want to do is probably take the
make a text label.
Text label, yeah. So assign the text to the text label, and let's say text. Press enter here, and let's for now, just say text. So here we've created a cell and passed it the value of what it should be displaying. So let's actually run our app and see what will be displayed. So as you can see, we have exactly 5 rows with the text saying in the body of each row. Maybe to make it more obvious on what we are doing, let's actually, for each row, let's display the number of the row as well. So we will add these symbols inside the brackets and the slash, and then inside the brackets we will mention the index path variable that we have inside the method, and from the index path we'll take the row. So for now, what will happen? Let's see. We'll have the text and then the number of the row. We have 5 rows starting from 0 to 4.
Nice.
That's the realization of UI table view data source inside our code.
Yeah. So now let's try to fill it with some real data. For doing so, first we need to understand what we are presenting. We're talking about habits, and what attributes does habit have?
So if we're thinking about habits in the real world, probably I will always call it something, so give it a name or a title. Also, since it's a habit, it's something that I will be doing on regular basis, so there should be some regularity. Either I'm doing it every day or every 3 days, every 7 days, so weekly, right? And I think also important for us is when was the last time I've done it, since if I'm doing it every 7 days, and I know that the last time I've done it was 6 days ago, maybe now tomorrow will be the time for me to do it.
Yeah. So let's create a model for our data. For doing so, we need to click on any place in our project and say new file. We will choose Swift file. for creating it, and let's call it habit. For representing habit in our application, we will use structure. We type here structure, habit, curly braces, and we're using name. We will make it constant since it won't change from the time you created the habit. So
How do we know that it is a constant?
for doing so, we're providing special word called let. It's a Swift word which tells us that this specific property is constant and it can't be changed since it was set. String, title string. Also, we need regularity. This will also not be changed since it was sensed. This is why we make it constant. And we make it integer, and also we need date of last action, and the date of last action can be changed because we're assigning new every time we make an action. So we use var last done and put the type date, but we make it optional, optional special type in Swift which tells us that this specific property can have no value at all, can be nil, which is nothing. So we put a question mark here. This is our structure for habit, and this is our data model. Let's try to feed our table with this data. So for doing so, we will create a new property in our controller called habits, which will be an array of habits, and we let's fill it with some data. Whole mom, regularity should be daily.
Yeah.
And since we didn't start it, so we can provide no last done date.
Yeah, it makes sense. So last done date, initially we haven't done it when it's created. So we will assign it later on. Once we press that it's done, that's where the moment we will initialize this variable.
True. So also let's add reading Quran, since it's also very important. On regularity, it should be also daily basis.
Okay. And how much of the Quran should we read? Because, read Quran is a little bit generic. Should we make it more specific, do you think?
Probably for good habit, it should be very specific. Yeah, true.
That's right.
So let's make it read 2 pages of Quran. Let's add something with another regularity. What do you think?
I think something for the body. So maybe like having a walk.
Yeah, true. We need to have a walk. And let's make it on weekly basis.
Yeah.
So here we have our habits that we want to present in our application. For doing so, we will in number of rows in section, we will say that the number of rows is equal to the number of habits that we have in our model.
Nice.
And for each habit, the text should be the title of its habit. So we will take the habit from our habits array by index path of row, which specifies on which row we're now. And we use the title of the habit. So now our application will show us the list of our habits.
Let's run it.
Let's try. Yeah, this is it.
Nice. Maybe one touch that we could add to make it even more explicit and to also let users see the regularity of how often it is done. Maybe we could do the following. So let's let's declare it inside brackets. So for Xcode to understand that it is actually this part of the string we should be taken from the variable, we will put it inside the brackets with a slash before it, and then we will follow it up with habit and the regularity that we have. And just to give some separator, we will add like a slash like this between them. So let's run the app and see what's gonna happen. So here we have the habits, the title, and what is the regularity that we should be doing.
This is it for today's lesson. So today we have covered TableView and basics of delegation pattern. We also connected our table to view controller and showed how to present our data in the models tab.
Yeah, I think this process of modeling real world concept of habit into the IT world, in the computer science world through data modeling was very much fun.
Yeah.
So this is it for today. As homework, we suggest you to try to play with the array of habits, expand it, add new habits, and also expand the struct itself. So maybe add a new property called priority to the habits to show how important it is for you to get this habit. So stay tuned for the next lessons.
As-salaamu alaikum.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.